Hey, everybody. This episode of Our Kids Play Hockey is brought to you by our title sponsor, NHL Sense Arena. Look, we all want our kids to succeed in hockey, but let's face it, finding training that's both effective and enjoyable can be a real challenge, and not to mention expensive and a total drain on time, especially if you have to drive to the rink, pay a private instructor. There's so many reasons that money gets spent on this game. But that's where NHL Sense Arena steps in. It's a virtual reality training game that brings the rink into your home that takes off-ice training to a new reality. It's designed to improve hockey sense and IQ, something that's lacking majorly in the game today for both players and goalies. And you get unlimited access to over 100 drills and training plans from top coaches and players that can be played anytime, anywhere, with drills approved by USA Hockey player and goalie development directors. Look, improving mental hockey skills at home has really never been more fun, and any hockey player that uses this is going to have a blast. All right. I've used this before on my own, and it feels like you're so immersed in an arena, you sometimes forget you have a headset on. And again, it's not being on the ice, but it allows you to work on some of these skill sets like scanning, as I said before, hockey IQ, looking around the rink, making the right plays, that getting those repetitions in now as a hockey player are super important for your development. So NHL Sense Arena is giving all the listeners an exclusive offer for $50 off an annual plan when you use our code Hockey Never Stops at checkout. Again, that's Hockey Never Stops. All you got to do is go to hockey.sensearena.com. Again, that's hockey.sensearena.com. Use the code Hockey Never Stops, and you'll save $50 on your annual plan of NHL Sense Arena. Make sure to check that out and enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Do you have multiple kids in the game, or do you have one kid in the game? I've got multiple kids in the game, and guess what? They both want to play the game. So today's episode is about siblings, and how do you manage having siblings, not just in hockey, but have multiple interests and want to do multiple things. And as a parent or parents, you have to balance that. So I kind of interrogate Christy and Mike today on this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey, all about siblings in sport or managing siblings as a parent. And it was a fantastic conversation. And always, before we jump in, we want to remind you, if you like this stuff, if you love the episode, share it in your team snap, share it with your friends, give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. And make sure to join our a really fast-growing community on Facebook. It's a private Facebook group called Our Kids Play Hockey, a little bit of gatekeeper to make sure we get the right people in there. By right people, I just mean parents and people who enjoy the game or coach the game. But check that out on Facebook, Our Kids Play Hockey, and remember, all the episodes are on ourkidsplayhockey.com. Really, really appreciate your support and all the comments and the emails that we get from you that we're doing this the right way. Thank you for that. And so without further ado, here's another episode for you of Our Kids Play Hockey. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. They do every week. They do this week. They're going to next week. And that's what today's episode is all about. Today, we're going to do an episode about what happens when you have siblings in the game together. Now, this is going to be a good one for me because personally, both my kids are really starting their hockey journey at the same time. And my wife and I, guys, a little story for you, sat down the other night, kind of looked at the schedule for a little bit ahead of when they're both playing kind of competitively. My son will be a squirt next year. My daughter will be a mite next year. And we sat back and we were just like, oh my goodness, this is 7 days a week. Right now, I kind of knew that, but I had to have a serious conversation with my wife of, look, I want you to really understand what we're about to get into here, because this is we have to schedule. We're going to have to miss games at times in the sense of one of us will have to take one kid, one of us will have to take the other kid. And, we had a great question in our comments section on Our Kids Play Hockey's Facebook group about what do you do when you have multiple kids in the game. So today's episode, Christy and Mike, you will be my mentors as you have been every episode thus far, about navigating the waters of having multiple kids in the game of hockey as a parent. How do you survive that? And maybe we can give some advice to the kids listening to the show, because we know we have a lot of youth athletes that listen to the show, about how hard this can be on the parents, because we want to be at every game. We want to be at every practice for the most part, but it can be really hard. So that's today's topic, is how do you survive youth hockey with multiple kids? Again, let's just quickly remind everybody, because we all have kids in the game. Christy, your kids, how old they were, how far apart they were, and then Mike, you do the same.
Yeah. Joey started playing when it was late, 7 or 8. And Sophia started right away when she was 3. Fortunately, they were both in the same organization. So a lot of their games, when Sophia got to be 5 and actually started playing competitively at the mite level, they were in the same rink, many of them, which was fantastic. You know, one game would be on one end, Sophia would be playing. I can run down the other end and watch Joey play. But as they got older, it gets more complicated. And especially when they get to travel teams,
Right.
high school, that's really hard. Fortunately, because Sophia was younger, she didn't have night games. So, and Joey's were mostly night in high school. So I was able to make all of his high school games. But when we were out of town with Sophia, because then she started doing a travel team, it was we had to just split up. I would
Right.
go obviously with Sophia, help her get dressed and, you know, be around the girls for the girls teams. And then my husband would be with Joey with his boy travel team. And you just, it's really hard and it's painful because, you know, you'll call each other, text each other, and try and do it all. Now, yesterday, when we were at my daughter's college hockey game, one of the mom's son's game was going on at the same time. Thanks to Live Barn, she was able to watch her daughter's game, college hockey game. She was with us. And on her phone, she had her son's game on Live Barn. So it has gotten easier for parents that you can do that. And Live Barn is everywhere. So subscribe to Live Barn. I would definitely suggest that. And then if you can't make it, if you have to do the tag team or split up, at least you have an opportunity to watch and know how they did. And she was great because she's also the team mom for her son's team. And she ordered Chipotle ahead of time, everything on her phone. So when the boys got done, they had a nice dinner all ready for them. And it was kind of amazing that the phone makes it a lot easier to navigate and to coordinate. So you parents are lucky you've got technology at your fingertips.
I was just gonna say, now I was the only sibling. I have my older brother who I look up to, but I was the only one who played hockey, and I didn't think about the technological advances of today. You're making a great point because I don't even have Live Barn yet, and you're right. I am gonna probably have to subscribe to that too, and I haven't had a need to yet. But the technology there is amazing. And yeah, Mike, let's flip to you. How many kids you got? What's the age gap? Where are they at?
So Michael and Arthur are 6 years apart. So I have a 15U and a 10U. So a squirt and a midget. And if that doesn't make sense.
You can't say that anymore, Mike. You can't say it anymore. They changed the
I know.
rules.
So I'll stick with 15U, 16U player, and a high school player and a youth hockey player. And again, I think Christy's point, I think it's almost mandatory now when you register for hockey that you register for Live Barn if you have multiple kids in multiple arenas. It is unbelievable, the technology that allows you. I mean, you could get levels of membership where you just see your own kid play, and that's it. Like, right. You don't even have to watch everybody else's kid. You just watch your own kid's shifts. So I think it's pretty wild, the technology that's out there. And to Christy's point, having the ability, if you're a team mom or team dad and you have multiple kids, the fact that you can use, talk about pre-thinking about things, you really have to lay things out because you just can't leave to go to your other kid's game and then leave the other, your team high and dry. But it's a challenge, right? That's one thing, I think it could be more of a challenge if you bite off more than your family can chew. We've talked about this about, when you pick a program, what are you going to do? How are you going to pick your program based off of your own family needs? And sometimes you can't put your kid in the highest level because maybe the highest level is way too much travel. Like I've been in hockey my whole life, and I still don't know how people do road trips with multiple kids on the same weekend. I know maybe it's a badge of honor for some people and they think it's great. I just don't think there's any need for it. And I think it's just so sad to me sometimes when you see all the running around that goes on, and there was just not just too much for too soon for the little kids. I mean, and you want to see so the whole idea for us, like in our family, is, Arthur's been for years now been carted around to every rink, whether he likes it or not, having to watch his older brother.
Right.
Like that's just part of it. Like you bring the the Nintendo Switch, and you bring the board games, and you bring cards, and you try to find families that have other kids that have kids in the same age group, and you try to, force on these play dates. But it's it's hard when you have the one kid that's playing at one level, and then you have a kid like in our family. Michael's playing obviously very competitive travel hockey, and then Arthur's playing what I guess you would consider rec hockey, but it's rookie league, one rink, not a lot of travel, not and that's just by choice. Really has nothing to do with skill level, because anybody could play travel hockey because it's so watered down and filtered. I think anybody could play travel hockey. It's just a matter of what are you choosing to do. Like, where can you play that's going to allow everyone not to be happy, but to have good balance. And then you got to throw in here too, is that hockey's not the only thing you do every weekend.
Right.
So it's great. It's fun. It's like just this morning, one parent in getting skates sharpened because they're going to Buffalo. The other parent's going to Maryland. They're not going to see each other until next Tuesday. And I'm like, I guess if you have to do that, great. But my advice is try to avoid it as long as you can.
Yeah, you're making me have a lot of questions here, because I'll tell you a few things that are happening, right? Like one is that my son is really getting into it now from a passion standpoint, right? Which is by far the most wonderful thing I think I've experienced in the game, even aside from playing, is watching him find that. But it almost raises the stakes in a weird way. That's probably not the right phrase, in the sense of, oh, now I really want to go. Now I really want to watch. And suddenly my daughter, who I also love and is finding a passion, is in Adams, and she wants to go. And I'm having to have these conversations with my daughter now. And Mike, you said about balance of, hey, I need to go to my son's or your brother's practice tonight because it's his first practice with this team. And then but I want you to come to my practice, come on the ice. I've had to have that conversation, and it's only going to get worse as they grow. Right. So, and again, I want to first I want to do this in the beginning, give a shout out to all the parents. I know parents who have two goalies and a mite. I know parents who have multiple kids playing. It's a challenge. So just shout out to all the parents who have multiple kids in the game, because it is a way of life. And again, going back to
if you have two goalies in your family, that's your fault. That's your fault.
Yeah, well,
what the hell are you thinking? What are you thinking?
I know would say that too. The third kid is not a goalie, so the youngest is not a goalie. But I'll tell you this, is that I remember sitting down with my wife. I said this at the beginning of the episode, and saying, wow, we're really going to run into a lot of conflicts here next season if we're not careful. And we really need to think about it. And it's funny, because of this show, again, my son's playing travel hockey. He'll be a squirt next year, be a goaltender. And my daughter, I'm thinking, because of us, is maybe she needs to be in a house league next year, not a travel league, for mites. Again, she doesn't need to be playing in a travel league. I don't think she's quite there yet, in my opinion. I'm learning also from my son being in mites, and maybe he should have been in the house league last year, or the year before. So these are the types of balanced conversations, Mike, that you said that we have to have.
Right.
Christy, I wanted to go back
get
to
really
you.
challenging when you have multiple kids on travel teams,
Right.
and you just have to face the fact it's not going to be easy. It's really challenging. You got to be a better organizer. You got to get better at making quick meals, planning. You need a bigger budget, because you're going to be paying for hotel stays for multiple kids, which adds up. Lots of miles on your car. So you make sure you invest in a good vehicle that's not a huge gas guzzler. And but on the plus side, there's wonderful bonding that goes on when your kids share a love for a sport, which was absolutely beautiful. There's 6 years difference between Joey and Sophia. And I know Sophia's playing hockey because of Joey. That's what got her into it. And, so she was just a baby when we would go watch him play, and, strap her up, bundle her up in the rink. And, she'd be just in awe watching her big brother play. And she'd made friends with the other we call them little rink rats that run around the ring. But what a great bond those two have. I mean, they play their video games together. They're out in the driveway shooting on each other. It's just it's a great brother-sister relationship that I think they got closer because of the sport.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too in my house. So again, my son, my firstborn, was just kind of bred into the game. I believe he went to his first game when he was 4 days old, which was, believe it or not my idea. I think my wife just wanted to get out, and so he was at a game I was working at right away. So he was kind of in the game right away. My daughter, you can see the love is there for it, or the interest is there because he plays it. You can see it.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, he's entering that phase. You guys will love this, where he's got the backwards hat on all the time, the hair plucked out to the front, and he's got a hockey sweatshirt on every day. He's entering that phase, which is pretty fun for me. I'm like, get dressed. That'll do every day. But yeah, Christy, I want to stay on this for a minute. Mike, you too, is as a parent, because I think you're right. That bond between brothers, sisters, sisters, whatever it is really important to cultivate at the younger ages, because they don't understand when they get older how important that sibling relationship is going to be. It's impossible to understand it when you're a kid. When you get older and life moves on, it's very important. So how do you help to cultivate that? Or, Christy, is it more of a, hey, stand off, they're doing it on their own?
They do it on their own.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't really have to do anything. Yeah, it just takes its course, especially when they have such an interest and a love for the game. They just, support each other.
Right.
And Sophia would often, because he was more experienced, when she had a bad game, instead of going to me or my father or her father, she would go to Joey, because Joey got it, because we're not hockey players. So we
That's
can't
cool.
possibly understand what she's going through.
Yeah.
But Joey did. Yeah. So
that's
he was
gonna
always
be
there.
that's gonna be fun for me when my daughter goes to my son, and I'm like, I know a little bit about the game too, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, Dad, you coached 1,000 years ago, right?
No,
Yeah.
you know nothing.
I know nothing, right? Why don't you ask Mike Bonnell? He knows. So Mike, I'm asking you. Tell me now about your kids. Do they naturally kind of have that, or do you have to cultivate it a little bit?
No, that's one of the things I like, is that, well, they fight, like, they actually fight like they're closer in age. So it's like, there's a lot of, they're not fighting over like the sticks. Like I see kids, like so many kids I work with that have siblings that, they're all close in age. Like they're literally have like built-in genetic play dates, like where the kids are beating each other up. Like I came from a family of 5. So I don't know. I don't even know how my parents did it. Like, I don't know how 5 kids played hockey all within like 2 or 3 age groups from each other. I mean,
Right.
it's like, you got to trust other families. Like, okay, yeah, take them. I'll see them on Sunday, I guess. Good luck for the weekend. But for when you have siblings that are close, I always see it in the rinks when I see these kids walk in. Like the way they look at their older sibling, girl or boy or whatever, there's a lot to be said for how that sibling influences the development of the next one. Usually I see like the youngest is always like, it's either the worst or the best. Like the youngest one's usually just so far ahead because they've gotten, they're
Right.
getting all that knowledge and all that handed down to them so much quicker. And you'll even see in tryouts. Like I could tell you right now, I bet you in a 10U tryout, like in a squirt tryout, I could tell you what kids are the siblings of older kids right away. I mean, just say, oh yeah, that kid has older brother, because the way what they're doing out there, or how they're playing, or what kind of, what they have when they come into the rink, their knowledge of just their surroundings and knowing what locker room to go to, and just all those little things that you get from just being around your older sibling in any way of life, right? But
right.
When in the hockey world, you walk in and the way a kid tapes his stick, or the way a kid carries his bag, or the type of equipment they have, like I felt so bad for I never got new equipment either, but my younger brothers never got anything new. It was at the verge of falling apart, because like, oh no, you're now a 13-inch shin guard. Now you have to wear it because that person's growing, and just gets passed down, basically until it fell apart, I guess. But I think it's there's definitely a challenge there if your kids are different levels. Like, if one kid is elite and then a year later another kid has no interest, like you got to juggle all those things, right? And I think but for a lot of kids, like you look at the NHL right now, like the Hughes brothers. I mean, they just keep coming. Like it's just like, okay, well, yeah, that this is just another kid that was produced another athlete and another kid, because the other kid's driving the next one up.
Oh, and
Right.
the NHL's had lots of
all the
famous
time.
The Suitors, the Stalls. I mean, there's been a lot of great brother groups in the NHL. Also, a lot of great goaltenders were the last born child, just because their older brothers or sisters said, "You get in the net, you're taking the shots," and that's how goalies can be born sometimes.
Right.
But, I think you're absolutely right that it does get passed down, and again, you can see that, like you said, on the ice. I think it's obvious, just the competitive nature. Look at Serena and Venus Williams. I mean, if you guys ever saw that movie about their dad, which was intense to say the least, a lot of what he did with Venus transferred right to Serena, and Serena, they're both obviously world class, all time great tennis players, but she learned a lot from watching her older sister go through that training. So
Yeah, but think about that in a microcosm, right? Because all the other kids had to go too. They all were there. They're all cheerleaders with them. Like, so you see that all the time in hockey. You see, like, and I see it like in families where they have the two kids playing, then the sister comes. She doesn't want to play hockey. She has no interest. And, she goes in the corner and plays with dolls. And then you see her a year later, like, she's kicking everyone's butt because she's playing it. She's like, okay, well, you know what? Now I'm going to play. I'm tired of being carted around the rink. Like, I want to play. And that's great. Like, I love that. I think that's great.
So let me go on to my next question here. This is kind of an elephant in the room question. I'm going to ask it pretty broadly, so nobody needs to be specific. But I know parents deal with this. At some point, I'm not talking might in squirt now, but at some point you might get to a place in the game where, hey, one of my kids is really excelling, maybe has a future in the collegiate way or a high level, and the other one maybe isn't. Maybe it's just more of a rec thing for them. How do you divide that time, right? Because that can be really tricky if, you don't want your kids to start thinking, well, mom and dad are playing favorites because brother A has a chance and I'm just doing it for fun. What conversations need to happen? How do you split time? I want to get your thoughts on that. Just generally, because I'm not saying it's going to happen with my kids. I'm just saying that I know that does happen.
I mean, I can think of some examples of other parents. It's my kids, because of the difference in age, it didn't really factor in. I mean, Joey was done in high school and Sophia I knew that she wanted to play college hockey someday. It was pretty much her goal. But, I'm thinking back to other parents who had, competitive siblings, and then the other one wasn't so competitive. And they just kind of made sure that the younger child who might not be as ambitious about hockey felt special in other ways.
Right.
I'm thinking of this one example where the kid was really a musical genius, was okay hockey player. So the mom really kind of paid attention to his musical abilities, and they made sure to go to all of his concerts, and they would brag about him, when he was in the stands with us. Oh, little Joey just had this great concert. They made sure that he felt special and that his talent was just as equal as his big brother who was out there on the ice. So, just don't neglect that kid. There are ways to make them feel like their talents are important too, even if they're not, look like they're going to be competitive hockey players.
I think that's great advice, Christy, just in terms of, making sure that you cultivate multiple points of interest in your kids. It doesn't have to be the same.
Right.
Mike, how about you?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, I just finding it's just like anything we do with our kids, right? If they excelling in something, or they like something else, or they're not as into one thing or the other, we all juggle this. I mean, this is like, okay. And, and like somebody like me, I'm always very conscious of the fact that, I have to be as enthusiastic about guitar as I am about out shooting the puck on your own. Like to me, I'm like, and that's hard for me because I'm like, I don't really care about the guitar, but it's one of those things where you always have to be like, okay, well, you at the end of the day, you're just a kid. And I actually was listening to a podcast the other day on an ex-NHL player, and they were talking about how all through high school, he was always the lead in the school play, and juggling hockey and his desire to be this great actor and being out there on the stage wasn't tough. Like, they made it easy for him to do it because the parents were like, oh, you're great at this, and you're great at clearly you're good at this, you're going to play pro hockey. So I think we all have to remember that when we're in the stands with kids, they're not hockey players. Right. They just the hockey happens to be one of the things they might be good at. Maybe they're great at it, but there's also all these other aspects of their life. And if they have a sibling, maybe that sibling, I won't name any names, but there's a professional hockey player right now that's great in his game, and his brother is a great wrestler, like a college, like all-American wrestler. So that person chose to go one way, and
Right.
the other kid's a great athlete going this way, and those parents have to, they have to send just as many Facebook messages out about the success of the wrestler as they do the hockey player. And
That's
and
right.
and we have to appreciate too, as parents in the stands, when people have brothers and sisters at the rink, not to just shun the kid off that's not playing hockey. Like, oh, you don't play hockey?
Oh,
That's what
yeah.
I wanted to dive into because I think it's important that we remember. And again, I'm not, there's, there's so many people that listen to the show. The idea is this, is that, if one of the siblings is not great at something, Mike, you just said that it's, you don't want them to feel neglected, or that you value the talent over them as a person. And I think that that's why it's so important to cultivate. You can go great at something else. It doesn't have to be this. Right. And I don't love your brother or sister more because they're good at this. That's not how our value system is. And I'm bringing this up. I don't think any parents think that way. I'm thinking about kids. Kids might perceive it that way if we're not careful. Of, why is dad always going to Johnny's hockey game and he never comes to my recital? And it doesn't mean the dad doesn't love the kid. He just might not be interested, Mike, as you said, in the recital. Even my own story.
Or it's just
Yeah.
or it's just what your lot, where you are in lot. Like, I coach. So if I'm
Right.
coaching my older
That's
son and I'm
true.
going to all of his events, my wife doesn't coach. So what does she do? She goes to the other events. Like,
Right.
so at some point they're like, well, why don't you ever come to my event? I go, because mom can't coach. Like, I'm the
Right.
one coaching the team. Like,
Right.
so if I have to go to these, and I guess I don't have to go. I could say, you know what, on this game, I'm not going. I'm going to this event.
Yeah.
But
Right.
so find somebody. I mean, listen, this is not, nobody's dying if I don't show up for a weekend of hockey. So I think it's just a matter of knowing that, saying, hey, listen, you got to, it's really hard because you're committed to a group of other people. And it's hard to communicate that to the other sibling, that, yes, I love you just as much, but I'm also committed to this. And again, can you make up with that throughout the course of your 18 years with your kids? I hope so, right? I hope it's not like, it's not 17 years and then, oh, I spent the 1 year with you and I went to
Right.
your recital. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter, and then it all depends on the time of season. Can I do more? You love skiing, okay, and you don't, so and hockey's not as important to you, so we can go skiing more, and I can do that with you. Like that's just a matter of recognizing that. But to your point, Lee, knowing that kids don't maybe even see that. They just remember the one time like
Right.
that. And that could be the biggest time. Like, it doesn't equal
Right.
out to them.
Right. Well, look, as a parent, I'm at that point of my parenting journey. Been a parent for almost 9 years now, where it's like you start seeing things from your parents' point of view of, oh, wow, yeah, now I get why they did that, why they do that. So I'm having an awakening, and in the sports, I'm starting to see this too, right? Of how much I enjoy it, but also how stressful it can be. And again, I was going to tell this story too, that I was in choir for a long time. I was in choir for most of my life and through high school. And I remember, just so the parents know, this transcends hockey, I was a rec league choir guy, in the sense of that this was not my number one thing. Hockey was always my number one thing, but I really just enjoyed being in the choir. But I remember the slight judgment. I didn't really care at the time, but the slight judgment of, you don't want to pursue this beyond high school. And I was like, nah, I just do this for fun. So even in choir, there was this
lot of
whole
pressure
side of things of like, but what happens if you don't make chambers? I'm like, I didn't even do chambers. I was the only junior and senior in my like 9th and 10th grade choir because I didn't care. I just enjoyed doing it. But it transcends hockey in a lot of ways. And again, my mother always supported that. My father thought it was kind of funny that I was doing that in hockey at the same time, but that's supporting the points, Christy, that you and Mike made, of just that there's more to life than one thing. I think it's important that your kids know that, and that they know that you know that, and that, at the end of the day, we talk about this all the time, is I tell my kids, I really just want you to be a good person. I don't care what you do. I don't care how good you are at stuff, as long as you're a good person at it. If you don't have that piece of the puzzle, it's really not going to matter anyway, because people that aren't good people don't tend to make it too far. Right. So I think that's important. Great answers, by the way, guys, on these questions. It's really helping me out. Here's another one, the tough one. I'm trying to find like the elephant in the room questions. Like I said, what happens when a kid wants one parent over the other? Right. What happens when they get to that age where it's like, I don't want mom to take me. I don't want dad to take me. I want you to take me. How, and again, I don't know if you guys have ever been through that, but how would you even compartmentalize that? Is it a conversation that you need to have? Is it a nope? Taking you this
I never had that happen.
I believe you,
wanted both of us there.
Yeah, I believe
and
you.
we just kind of had to let them down when one of us couldn't. And then, we would switch. Okay, you
Right.
go to Joey's game tonight. I'm going to go to Sophia's tomorrow. We would try and balance it as much as we can. Boy, I don't know. So you think some kids pick one parent over another?
Well, I know they do. I know
That
for
would
a
hurt
fact
my
that they do.
feelings.
Well, here's the deal.
Oh, my kids tell them they like my wife better. Both of them, I
There
think.
you go. See
They,
that?
they rather
nobody
have
picks
mom
me.
there than
Nobody.
dad.
I'd pick you, Mike. I
Thank
would
you.
pick
But neither one would pick me. I'm like, wait, what about me? What
I'd
about
pick
me?
your
I'd like
wife.
to go.
Yeah. Well, look, here's why I bring it up. Because I do know multiple people in that situation.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that a lot of times, and again, this is going to sound a little weird, but a lot of times it's the parents identifying through the game a little bit differently than I think they are, in the sense of the
Oh.
kids perceiving it as all this pressure is on me because of you and the way you're doing it. And I don't think the parents are even aware that they're doing it. So I think that not to answer my own question, but my thought process is, if a kid is saying, I don't want you to take me, I want the other parent to take me, that's kind of a red flag that you might have to have a conversation about. Hey, listen, we'll do what you want, but why? What is it that I'm doing? And this is where you gotta drop
Get
the
to the bottom
ego.
of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the kid trying to mentor you of you're doing something that's making me uncomfortable. And you have to have those
Embarrassing enough,
conversations.
maybe.
Yeah. I have seen that firsthand. So it's one of those things of the kids will tell you when it's too much. And I think as parents, we got to listen to that. Now, with that said, yeah, Christy, I think you're right. I know you're right. It will hurt if a kid says to you,
Yeah.
I don't want you to take me, or I don't want you to be at the game. Right. I know kids who are adults now who did not want their parents to come to their games at all. They just wanted to be dropped off and left there because they were embarrassed or they felt the pressure. And I remember the parents felt slighted, but the truth is that once the parents took a step back and realized, hey, my kid's telling me something. What am I doing that makes them feel that way? That's where the solution started to come. And slowly but surely it resolved itself. But you can't take that personally to the point of what's wrong with my kid. It's what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, and I go through that all the time, because I think it's because my guys will be like, okay, no, I don't want Dad taking me that because he doesn't really get into that, or he doesn't want to get, he's not into it with me. Like if they want my wife to go to something, they know that she's like really into it. Like that's like her thing. Like that's what she really like. Even as stupid things like not stupid things, but like even little things like scouting or something like my wife's not going to go on a camp out. She just won't go. She's not going to do it. So the kids know that the choice is, well, mom's not going to go to camp out. But if it's a meeting, or if it's something that actually somebody has to listen and take in information that they have to have for their kids later on. Like what's there's a great comedian out there. He says that, the school secretary had to get something like I don't know what it was, like your kid's blood type or something like that. And they had two numbers to call. And he goes, and the office calls my number first, the dad. Like, what the hell is the office even thinking? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know my kid. I don't even know my kid's date. Like, that's my joke. Like, when I do registrations, like I always like. So the question is, right, Chris? You experience this when you walk in and you check in your kid for the state camps or anything like that. I go, oh, what year? Okay, year of birth, and every dad is like, when were you born? Like, what year were you born? Like, what was your year of birth again? And the moms know, like, year of birth, last vaccination.
Well, I bet the moms know the
time,
exact second of the birth. Yeah.
Last time,
last
time, if they had their tetanus shots, who their doctor is, where the like, boom, 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 boom. And that's not like my kids are always like don't ask him. Like he doesn't know it. He doesn't know.
Mike, I'll tell you this.
That's actually pretty bad, but it is what it is.
Christy, you could probably confirm this, but if I was on the labor room table, I would have remembered the date.
Absolutely.
Like maybe not the day of birth, but even the date, like the year of birth.
Yeah,
like
no, I'm saying if I was laying
there,
there, I would remember. That's what I'm trying to say.
But most
The
hockey
day,
parents now
the
know.
minute, the second.
I
You
will
guys
say
are
that
watching the Super Bowl instead of me giving birth. Are you serious?
This seems like
Are
an
you
inopportune
serious?
moment, or an opportune moment to tell all the mothers out there, thank you for birthing the children.
Awesome.
No, Christy, I'll throw it to you too. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So I think, so be careful. We'll rewind just a little bit. So be careful of your behavior at a game that may be embarrassing your kid. Because I have seen that where the kid is just shrinking on the ice, where the parents have their air horns and they're, whooping and hollering and yelling at the refs. And the kid is just like a shrinking violet. It's like, please stop, mom and dad. You're really embarrassing me. I don't want either one of you at my games.
Well,
So
yeah.
check your behavior to see if maybe that's one of the reasons why they don't want both of you or one of you there, because it might just be a matter of just toning it down,
We,
and being more respectful to other players. If you're calling out numbers like get number 12 and, knock them down, it's just, I've seen that horrible behavior. So no wonder a kid doesn't want you there. So check yourself, make sure that you're not doing anything that causes your kid to say, I don't want you there. So, but we've always found that, the kids want both of us there for everything, and we wish we could have, but you can't be in two places at the same time. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
It's painful, but it's a good thing. You should want your family to be there. But
Yeah.
I said this in another episode. I'm going to say it again. One of the telltale signs that you might want to look at as a parent, and again, don't read into this too much, is what happens after your kid makes a mistake. Where do they look, right? Or how do they look? I have seen kids at every age group, when they make a mistake, they look to their parent in the stands.
Ooh,
and it's
yeah.
not a good look. It's oh no, my dad or mom is watching that. That can be disturbing. And again, at different ages, it means different things. Again, don't read too much into it. I've also seen kids, you guys will have this last game. One of Logan's teammates jumped in front of a shot, and Logan looked at me and pointed at the kid with like, did you just see that? And then he went back on the ice, kind of back into the game. That was a good look, right? It was a happy look. But especially when you get to the higher levels, if your kid makes a mistake, if they're looking at you worried about judgment, you have to have a conversation with them that's not how I value our relationship. And, if you make a mistake, you should talk to your coach, unless it's an endearing type of thing of they're looking at you for comfort. All right. Again, there are a lot of different parts of that. Another thing I wanted to bring up, maybe we can end on this one, is just, I always look to my wife's family. My wife's one of 5 children. They're all somewhat close in age as you go down from the oldest to the youngest. And I was always amazed by the support that they gave each other. So at some points, Christy talked about this, the older brothers would actually end up taking the younger kids to the games if the parents couldn't be there or they were working. It was a real family unit. And what I took away from that, again, in my family, was just my brother and I, and we were 5.5 years apart. So we just never were close in age in terms of athletic school or anything. But what I learned from my wife's family is, wow, they really turned this into we do this as a family. Right? That we support each other as a family. And I've always wanted to recreate that in my own car, in my own house, that, hey, we support each other in whatever it is that we're doing, whether it's sports, music, school, anything we're pursuing. So I think that when I look at the impending future of my 2 kids playing, I'm also trying to look at it with that, how can I create this environment of, hey, we're going to support each other. So that means sometimes dad will take Logan, sometimes mom will take Alina, sometimes we'll switch, but we're going to do it together. With all the stress, with all the travel, we're doing this together. I think that's how I want to approach it. So the question is, am I crazy? Is that going to get blown up in 2 years when we're doing different camps and different sports and different things? Or do you think that's a healthy way to approach it?
Very healthy way to approach it. And make a point. It's very easy for mom to take, the girl to the girls' game, and dad to take the boy to the boys' game. But make sure you make an effort to switch. Even if it may seem, it's so much more comfortable for me to be with the guys. It's really important that dad show up and, and be that support for your daughter as well. It's really important that dads get involved. And I love at the college hockey level, the dads all show up at the games, and not just the moms. And it's just a great thing. And when you hear about their journeys, they were right there. Same thing with my husband, the entire way. They were there supporting them from, little girls all the way to the college level. So yeah, make sure you be a part of that.
Yeah, I think that divide and conquer is and then swap and switch and just being a part of both. Like, it's just like laying out the calendar to say, okay, what's more important, but what is more like, how can we make this where it's if I go to this game, I know I can come home and I'll have dinner ready because it's an extra time for this. And if I'm cooking, then I'll take the one kid to this one and one kid to that one. If you have something you have to do, but I know like me and my wife, we always try to look and say, like, wow, if we're gonna go here, like if Michael's got a travel hockey game somewhere and we find out that Arthur has nothing, right? And he's coming along with us, she'll be like, oh, he has to go to the game an hour earlier. So we're going to find like a local zoo or a museum or something where he can go for that full hour and then go do that and with her, right? Or it should be, I guess I should swap with me, but if I'm coaching, I can't do it. But it's just like, okay, he's dropped off, he's getting ready for his game, but now I got, an hour and a half to kill. Let's go do something that is, that's great for all of us. And then, and the same thing, if he has to go to something, we kind of, it takes managing your weekend and your time.
Yeah. I was just going to say,
and that's a good point, because I can recall when Sophia was little and there were other parents who had kids her age, and we would be out of town with Joey's team. We would find something fun for the little kids to do, and we would take them as a group, to entertain them, like a zoo or some sort of museum or something fun for them, so that they felt like it was their trip too.
Yeah, you can't just go to the bar.
Exactly.
What?
That would make it so easy,
What?
right?
Well, I think that's a good point, guys. I'm very conscious, especially when my daughter wasn't playing. I remember like, hey, I'm just going to take you out to lunch today, or I'm going to take you out to just find little things of just me and her, where it's like, hey, I want you to know I'm here for you too. And I think that's cultivated itself well. I also want to remind everybody, maybe you didn't know this, Colleen Howe, who was the wife to Gordie Howe and also a manager, famously had a gigantic like whiteboard or whatever, chalkboard calendar in their house. And all the house talk about this calendar that she created that had everyone's schedule and how they did it and how she managed everything. And she became, I think she was the first female agent in NHL history at one point. This is Colleen Howe, who's also Mrs. Hockey, just as important as Mr. Hockey.
Right.
And she had none of this technology.
No, but somebody has to manage that event. Like every weekend's an event, and somebody's got to manage that, or else nobody gets managed, right? So it's just a matter of saying, okay, well, where are you going? Where are you now? It's so easy to, you look at Google Maps, say I could get here to here, and if I add this stop here, we can go here. You can go shopping here. We can get this in over here, and then we all meet back together at this central location. So it's like so if you have, listen, I guess if you have one or two kids, you're pretty lucky. If you have 5 that are playing, then good luck.
Yeah, when I first saw my wife's 4 siblings, I was like, wow, this is a lot all the time. Just key takeaways for me, guys. Again, obviously schedule. You have to have that sit down time. You have to figure it out as parents and families together. I think one I wrote here is quality time, not equal time. Yeah. Right. It's about the quality of the time and making sure that your kids know that, hey, I am here for you too, even if it looks like I'm at the hockey rink all the time. And then communicate, right? I think a lot, and this is parent to parent, parent to kid, kid to parent. You can't be afraid to have those conversations. I'm a big mental health proponent. We should not just always assume our kids are okay. All right. And I think it's really important. And parents, I know you know this listening, that you have that conversation once in a while. Everything going good? You feeling all right? And really have the conversation. Because here's the deal. If you're 16 years old, it's not all right. It's just, all right. It is all right from our point of view. You don't have real problems or whatever as a parent, but at 16, nothing was all right at 16 years old. Nothing was all right. Everything was crazy. So just some takeaways there. But yeah, Christy, Mike, thanks so much. Because I learned so much from this. I can't tell you how much of this I apply on my own journey. It's like I'm getting a free master's in hockey parenting from you two. So thank you for in the University of Benelli and Casciano Burns. We'll think of a better name than that. But any final thoughts before we move on? This was a great little show today.
Yeah, just we'll help guide you. We've been through it and we've made mistakes, and you can learn from our mistakes. So stay with us, and we've got more great topics ahead for everybody.
There we go.
Yeah, no, and I'll take a lot of these myself and reset and kind of remember that. Oh yeah, this weekend I probably should spend more time with the other. What's the other kid's name again?
The one with the other birthday.
The one that does stuff I don't like. I think it's just a matter of just knowing that that juggling. It's a juggling act, and we and if your kids don't play sports, it's probably a juggling act with something else. Whatever their interest. Thank God, if your kids have interest in anything, this is a great thing. Use it. Get them out there. Get them being interested in whatever it is. If they want to build, buildings out of toothpicks and just make it a good one.
Maybe an engineer, yeah. And look, finally I'll end this, by saying a few things. One is I will continue to make my mistakes in real time and share it with this audience, hopefully as a guide, as a coach in this time and era of what to do, what not to do, at least from my own experience. And I want to echo what Mike said, that, the skills, the relationships, the family, all of that trumps the game in the long term, no matter how long your children play. Right. You got to remember, you're teaching your kids. I'm speaking to myself too. I'm teaching them how to parent in the future by the way I parent now, whether I realize that or not. Right. So the hockey journey is just a big part of that. But I always think about that this has reverberations or ripples as you get into the future with college and work. And Mike, you said it. If your kid's passionate about anything, cultivate the passion and the work ethic. That's your opportunity. That's your in to teach them how to work hard. You love this. If you love this, you'll work hard at it. So that could be hockey, choir, toothpick buildings, becoming the next engineer, whatever it is. So wonderful episode, my friends. Thank you for joining us again. If you're listening to this and you love it and you find value, share it with a friend that needs it, share it with your team. Make sure to give us those reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. It really helps us out. Also, we've had a lot of people joining our Facebook group lately. It's Our Kids Play Hockey. It is a protected group. You can't just jump in. You have to ask permission to be in there. So a little exclusive there. But Our Kids Play Hockey on Facebook. And of course, all episodes, all conversations available on ourkidsplayhockey.com, along with the little deals we put together for you guys. So that's going to do it for this episode. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your games. Enjoy your week. We'll see you next time on Our Kids Play Hockey. Take care, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.